Alrighty, good morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Thank you for joining the live stream today. I am back. I've been on vacation for the last month or so. Vampire and I went to the US for the first time for her. And while we were there, bought some parts for my computer. I don't have the face cam set up. I don't have my usual stream set up because I'm running off the laptop as my stream title suggests. The reason for that is this is my streaming computer, my typical streaming and gaming computer, and I'm getting rid of the cooler that is in here because it's a little bit low on fluid and you can't fill it. So I bought this one. We're going to be putting in the Pure Loop 2 FX. It is a refillable cooler. So we're just going to jump in. I've opened the box only to check for damage and things like that because it was put in a check bag on the flight back from the US. And you can see the box has been a little bit beat up, but it is in good shape physically. But we're going to start by opening this thing up here. Sort of undo the thumb screws here. I actually had originally positioned my tripod on top of the desk, and I was like, no, probably not a good idea, because if I bump it wrong, the whole thing's going to fall down. This is a tinted glass side panel, like slightly tinted. So we're going to set that to the side and reveal all of this wonderful computer here. Pretty beefy computer, actually. For those who don't know, I have a RTX 3080 Ti. With a AMD Ryzen 5950X, 32 gigs of RAM. It's a pretty decent machine. Too bad the cooler needs to be replaced. So we're going to start by removing the cooler. You know what? I can go ahead and pull the graphics card just to give us a bit of room. Not that I think we need it, but down inside here, to remove the graphics card, you can't really see it, but there's a tiny little, not tiny, but it's hard to see, little tab here. I just have to push this to unlock the graphics card. I'll show it better when I have it out. This is a heavy card. Look at that. Big old graphics card. Just taking it out of the way. That's it. This is the tab that I was talking about. Best thing I got for Zoom. So this is the tab that I was talking about that we needed to push down to move the to lift the graphics card. This tab interacts with this tab on the graphics card and kind of locks it, like it hooks on here and locks it in place. Helps to hold it in there, basically. So we're going to remove the old cooler, which means I need to undo these mounting bolts here. Just gonna I forgot to grab some of my rubbing alcohol and some paper towels or something. Might have to run and go do that. Ripple you out of here. The reason for needing to do that is I need to clean the old thermal paste off of there before I put the new cooler in. And you can't really see it. Hey, Wendy Link. It's actually not a new computer. I'm just replacing the cooler in it. But thank you for stopping by. I'll answer that question in a moment. So I need to get to these plugs that are up here and just out of camera shy. That's a problem with some computers, some cases. My fans are in the way. I may have to take them off. I think I might have to take the fans off. So the computer has a RTX 3080 Ti graphics card. It has a Ryzen 9 5950X CPU, 32 gigs of RAM. It's my normal gaming and streaming rig. But right now, I can't get to my CPU cable, so I'm going to have to pull these fans out of the top. Yeah, it's a pretty decent machine. Been performing well. Case has a magnetic filter on the top, and I actually made a magnetic filter for the front because that's my intake. And just loosen that way I can get that out of there. Flip this back over. Now I can get to the two headers here. But you know what? I'm going to take this moment here. I will be right back. I'm going to go grab some rubbing alcohol so I can clean the thermal paste off of here. And yeah, I'll be right back. Alrighty, I'm back. No idea why the mic switched on me, but it did. Hopefully now it's better. Yeah, so I'm going to move this fan, just kind of walk it out of the way here a little bit so I can get to this header and this header. One of those headers is the RGB. This one is the RGB connector, or you can't see. And then the other one is the pump connector. So we got all that disconnected. And I stole some makeup pads from my wife's stuff just so I can douse it in alcohol and clean this mess up. I want to get it off of here, not because I plan to reuse this cold plate, but don't want to get thermal paste all over everything. Get that out, and then I can flop around and just be wherever it wants to be, whatever. Hook that back kind of there, and I'm going to do the same thing while I'm here doing this stuff to the CPU itself. All I'm using for this is just some isopropyl alcohol. Good enough to scrub the paste off, and it's not going to leave a residue. It's not going to leave anything harmful behind. You know what kind of annoys me a little bit? Just thinking about it, just yammering. Why the CPU socket is in here the way that it is. Little detail, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But because the socket is in here the way that it is, the CPU is in sideways. So all the lettering and stuff is sideways. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's just a thing to joke about, kind of. But I think with the new cooler, I'm going to have to take the back plate off. And I haven't looked at the back of this case in a while to see if I have a hole in the back of the motherboard tray. Oh, I hope I do. I hope I do. I really hope I do, because if not, I'm gonna have to tear this whole thing apart just to put the mounting brackets in. So I mentioned earlier that I manufactured a filter for the front. So here it is. And as you can see, it's collected a bit of dust. It's been doing its job. But I need to take out all of the front fans, all of them, because the CPU cooler that I have is bigger. The fans that I have here are not going to work. So I can't just roll it on its back because I've got wipes on in the back of this thing. I was going to roll it on its back and, show the removal of the front fan, but I can't. I know you guys can't see what I'm doing, and I can't reposition the camera, unfortunately. Using my little stubby screwdriver. I like this thing. Comes in handy. I've got 4 fans in the front of this thing. Or no, 3 fans, sorry. Each of them with 4 screws. So I had this thing set up with a push-pull fan configuration. And basically all that means is I have fans on both sides of the radiator. Fans in front pulling air in, and then these fans are pushing the air through. There's no real performance benefit to that. That was strictly just an aesthetic decision. And the screws in the back are the reason I have one of these guys. I just can reach in here. I pulled the radiator itself out first before I flip everything over and try to get to fan, deal with the fans. I just don't have a flexible screwdriver. They are so useful. This is just a flexible extension. Look at how dirty that's getting. Whew. All right, so I've got everything I can do in the front right now. I'm going to flip the computer to its back. Here's the radiator that I pulled out. Front's a little bit dirty, but that's all right. The pump, CPU block. And now I need to take this back panel off. Oh, thank God I've got a motherboard tray cut out. So I've glanced over the instructions for the new cooler, and it looks like I have to remove the factory AMD mounting system, which means getting to the back of the motherboard. And I actually have a cutout on the motherboard tray right here, so I can do this without taking the whole motherboard out. Thankfully, I have so much stuff to disconnect. Don't mind my cable management abilities here. At least I tried. Unplug all of these. You know what? I can take this out now because I'm not using these fans. So what this is the factory RGB controller for the front fan that came with the case. So since I'm not going to use it, goodbye Thermaltake controller. Having RGB fans is a pain in the booty. This is the case reset switch, which was connected to the controller here to basically change the modes on the controller. But since I'm not using this controller anymore, that means that I can get rid of this and connect the reset switch to the motherboard where it's supposed to be, where it's designed to be. The controller had SATA power. It's trying to run 3 fans off of 1 header. Dire Raven 4040, thank you for that follow. I appreciate it. How you doing today? So normally when somebody follows or things like that, I have like a big, show of lights and flashing lights and messages and all that kind of fun stuff. I don't have any of that set up right now because most of that happens on this computer and I'm streaming on a laptop. So that's where we are. Get rid of all 5 of these fans. They all work. All the fans work. They're just not compatible with what I'm putting in. So now that I have the computer prepared for the new cooler to be installed, I'm going to set this out of the way. I'm just going to set it down here on the floor and take a look at what we have in the cooler box here. I'm installing the Pure Loop 280 millimeter version. That is the largest version that will fit in my case, according to Thermaltake. Like I said, I have opened this already to check for damage, like physical damage, stuff like that. But beyond that, I've not looked at what's in it. Pretty decent right here. So this is going to be our controller. I believe the instructions say it works for up to 6 devices. Could be wrong on that. We'll double check the instructions. Here's the new CPU block attached to the new radiator. We're going to leave that in the cardboard at the moment. 240 mil Pure Wings fans. Pretty hefty box. So this is going to be like all the screws and accessories and stuff. Instruction manual, probably warranty card. Yes, this is disposal of old electrical and electronic equipment. And because this cooler is refillable, it's one of the reasons why I bought it and is the reason why I'm getting rid of the other one. They give you a bottle of coolant that when it needs to be filled in the next 2 or 3 years or whatever, you have a way to do it. So this just gets put away somewhere. All right. These are the longer screws. These are going to go through the fan to hold the fan to the radiator. This could be for mounting the radiator to the case if you're putting the fan on the inside. Bunch of mounting brackets. Little tiny thing of thermal paste. I don't know if I want to use that one or not. This is the bracket that I need. AMD bracket. A cute little tube of thermal paste. I don't know if BeQuiet uses good thermal paste or not. Not a clue. But I have thermal paste. I have 2 tubes of thermal paste. So I have the Arctic MX2. These are both older pastes, but they work fine. I have Arctic MX2 and Noctua NHT1 2019 edition. These are both a couple of years old, but they work fine. And so, like I said, I know I'm going to need this. I'm going to have to take off the old mounting bracket. I like that they give you a couple of zip ties, too. They care about your cable management abilities. So I'm going to use this one. Set that aside. We'll bring the computer back up here. And I need to remove this the back plate. It's only held on by a couple of screws. So I'm going to flip it this way to where it's facing everybody. So I'm just going to remove these 4 screws here. Lift up, and there's the back plate. Like I said, I'm going to put all of this back together just in case I ever need this back plate. Going to go in a box somewhere. All right, I'm going to put this with the bottle of extra coolant, just so if I need it later on down the road, I have it. Now, where'd I put the destruction manual? Right under my screwdriver. Alrighty. All right, so AMD. I think it's funny. They start with AMD instructions. So following parts are needed for this. The cooler, the fans, PWM hub, the short AMD mounting brackets, AMD spare nuts, backplate screws, radiator mounting screws, fan mounting screws, hub mounting screws, thermal paste, and double-sided tape tissue. And the frick is tape tissue. And okay, whatever. All right. Assembly of the cooler mounting frame. Prior to mounting the cooler, please detach both plastic coolers of the retention module. The factory mounted backplate. Ah, I'm an idiot. I should have read this first. The factory mounted backplate is required for further installation of the cooler. So I got to take all these darn screws off again. All right. Anyway, place the 4 AMD spacer nuts over the bolt threads of the backplate on the front side and fix both the AMD mounting brackets using the the AMD backplate screws. Good thing I didn't just decide to go throw away the backplate, right? If I'd read the directions first, then this would be easier because the backplate, I could have left one bracket on and it would have held the backplate in place. But no, I have to be a dummy and not read the directions. I have to be stupid and not read first. So I just have to hold the retention bars and their screws. I don't need to hold the whole back plate. Use so much plastic. Like, you put this in a plastic bag and then another plastic bag. Why must you do this? So lift this back up. I'm going to put the back plate back in place. I'm going to line the posts on the back plate with the holes in the back of the motherboard, just like that. And then because I was a dummy and undid everything first, I have to hold this in place while I fit the rest of this in here. So to put these just little plastic spacers on here. And it looks like on this mounting bracket, there's like a little angled tab. This tab looks like it goes inward. Then you put it down on here. And then because you're using spacers, you can't use the screws that you took out. You have to use the longer screws. All right, so brackets are on. There we go. What do we got next here? Mount fans to the radiator. All right, you heard the directions. I'm gonna move this out of here again because we've got the appropriate mounting bracket on. I get to take this all out of here. Actually, because I'm going to put the fans outside on the front of because this is going back in the front of the case, I need to do some other stuff to the fans first. The main reason I have the fans on the front of the case, or the radiator on the front of the case instead of the top, is basically because it doesn't fit with the RAM that I have. So RGB RAM has a bit higher profile than non-RGB, so that takes away the clearance that I have out of the top of the case. So we're going to skip the step of mount the fans to the radiator, and we're going to worry about wiring the fans into the case here. So let's see here. We're going to grab our 2 fans. There they are. And our fan controller, because I imagine that's got to go in here somewhere. This fan controller is supposed to be able to mount to a 2.5-inch hard drive mounting point. So we're going to see. I might just mount it on the back here, kind of like this. Oh, you guys can't see what I'm doing. Sorry. So I think I'm going to mount it on the back here, kind of like right here. It has screw holes, inlet screws for doing it. I think I might mount it here. Then I can have my cables just running down under like that. Before I do the trouble of running all the cables, I'm going to put 1 screw in this to hold it in here and then test fit the backplate. Probably the best thing I can do at this point. So we're going to put 1 screw in. Fits, so that's where we're going to put the controller. So since it fits, we're going to go on the front side of this and put these other 3 screws in that are going to hold the controller in place. Okay, so we're going to put these other 3 screws in the back of this controller here, and so we've checked that it does in fact fit through the case. So we have the fan controller mounted now. Sorry, you guys couldn't see what I was doing inside the case. We have the fan controller mounted down here, and the fan's inside in the radiator, because then I can still have my filter stuck to the outside. I think that's going to be the best way to do this. I like that fan manufacturers put arrows, so the blades are going to spin this way. Airflow is going to go this way, which means my RGB ring is going to be on the outside of the case, which is where I want it to be. But I think I have run into a little bit of a snag. If I put the fan on the inside, then the RGB is covered up by the case frame. So that means that the fan has to go on the outer side of the case, which means that my magnetic filter is no longer usable. I'm going to have to come up with a different solution there. It's all right. We'll get it figured out. We'll figure it out. I'm just going to have two fans on the outside. It's actually what this case was meant to be for. That's why there's like these grill holes on the side. That was meant to be the only intake for the case, and it had a plastic cover on the front. I wasn't happy with the amount of airflow going through the radiator and everything, so I took the cover off. And these grates weren't doing much for filtration anyway. But we're going to have to take this off of here, grab the bottom and pull up, and it does pop off. And I'm just going to rotate it around so that it's sitting on top of the case. I'll let this down again. One of the reasons I grabbed some compressed air, finally, that's out of this. So that means mounting to the case and the radiator at the same time. That's okay. That's all right. We got this, people. Unboxing the radiators. Okay. So I have the BeQuiet CPU block with its own ARGB header. The weird thing is, let me show you guys here. My old cooler out of here. So on this BeQuiet, this huge thing is only the cold plate and the CPU block. The pump decided to put it in line with the hoses, with the idea that the hose will absorb any kind of vibration, noise, and stuff, and it won't translate to the case. But this CPU block looks to be bigger than this CoolerMaster block that houses the block, the cold plate, the pump, everything. Let me figure out. On the old one, I had to put hoses up. I had people telling me, oh, you're supposed to put the hoses down, blah, 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 blah. And, I was like, well, it didn't fit that way. Did they put longer hoses? It looks like they may have put slightly longer hoses, so it might actually work hoses down. But not with the pump in the hose. It doesn't work. So it's going to have to go hoses up as well for the same reason. It doesn't fit otherwise. I do like that they attempted to deal with the cable management by running the CPU pump lead out towards the radiator, so you can run them along with your fan cables instead of being like out away from the radiator where you're going to have to run it somewhere else. I can appreciate that. But I have to look at the instruction manual and see if the CPU pump goes with the controller, or do I need to run it through the case and put it where, you know what? I'm just going to run it through the case and connect it to the AIO pump header. Just let the computer manage it like it's always been doing. They actually have this designed to go towards the bottom instead of up towards the top. It's just going to look weird. I don't know why, but I think that's going to look a little weird. That makes me want to really try. I'm going to fit these down. And it is not going to fit in the top because of the, I mentioned earlier, the clearance issues with the RAM. Then I have to go down here. If they put the pump a little closer to the middle of the hose, and it may have fit. I have this little tiny opening. This opening here. This. And the pump doesn't fit through that. Gonna have to go hoses up. How it was on my old thing, how it's gonna be on the new one. Not a thing I can do about it. Alrighty, where are my... I can just use these. I think I can use the old ones. Oh, that's not going to be... That's like... I need a little nub of clearance. That's not going to be enough because the fans are probably a little bit thicker. I can't use the old ones. Can I use these old ones? Maybe. I'll just use the ones that it came with, which are where... There. Lone screws. We shall start with one fan. I'm going to put the cables towards what will be the back of the case that will help with cable management a bit. Part of BeQuiet design is, making your case quiet. That is a big part of their goal. That is partly why, everything is, so their fans at it and show. They have, rubber on the screw mounts. the pump is in the middle of the hose, so it's meant to try to get the hose to absorb most of the pump vibration. Keep the system a little bit quieter while keeping it cooler. So fans are hooked up, which means the radiator is also mounted. We're good to go there. I think the way this was meant to be put together is based on like the length of the screws. That they could have been a little bit longer, as they're not meant to go through the case like this. Which, I mean, the metal is not super thick, but just thick enough. But that's all right. Move all of this off of here so that I can move the case this way. Everything back in the view of the camera. Shut off again. Y'all can't see. I'm sorry. Right. Alrighty. So we've got the CPU pump, which I'm going to push through the front of the case because it's going to go back through the back and up here to whichever one of these is the CPU pump header. You know what? Instead of running this through the front where everything is going to be visible, I'm going to run it through this little hole right here. And then we're going to run these cables back here. But these cables, I believe, there's like a little cutout right here. I'm going to run the cables like through these cutouts and put the case front back on. Now, the front of the computer is going to look like this, just open. I might find a way to put my filter just over this. But that'll be a future project for now. The CPU pump header there. I don't know why I keep calling it a header. It's not a header. It's a lead. The headers are on the motherboard. And my motherboard does have a specific AIO pump header. I'm going to run that too. Let the motherboard handle the pump speed and everything else. Separate from the fan speed. There's an ARGB thing here. But we will worry about that in a minute. You know what? Let's install the CPU block. Let's get that installed. Then I can worry about doing all the other stuff on the back of the case without having this big bulky thing flopping around. One thing a lot of people forget to do is peel the plastic off. You leave this on, it's not going to work very well. So we're going to pull this off. Oh, this is really sticky on there. There's even some residue left. Be quiet. I know you don't want this coming off, but there shouldn't be residue left. I have to clean that off so I can... There should not be residue left after peeling the sticker. A little bit more rubbing alcohol to clean that up a bit. I don't have sticker residue left. Thermal paste. I'm going to use my Noctua. Using the Noctua paste. I think that's what I had in here on the other cooler. I mean, both of these pastes are good. There's a lot of debate over what paste pattern people need to use. It kind of matters, kind of doesn't. The important thing is getting even coverage and allowing the paste to do what it is supposed to do. I went with this pattern. Some people just do an X. Some people still do a dot in the middle, which may or may not even be enough today. And then, you know what? Before I drop that down on there, I think I just screw it down. Place the CPU block centrally over the short AMD mounting bracket so that these allow the CPU block to be screwed down. For this, you can use a normal crosshead screwdriver. Next, connect the pump and the ARGB illumination to the ARGB PWM hub. Okay, so the manual suggests connecting the pump to the hub. I'm not going to do that, but I will go ahead and connect the RGB connector to the hub. One that it will reach. I do like that they do not use the AMD factory mounting mechanism. I mean, it works, gets the job done, but it sucks. CPU block is in and it's right side up. So RGB headers are complicated, but not complicated. This little white header here is one of the RGB headers on the sticks. And it is a ARGB or addressable RGB because it only has 3 pins. And the 3 pins are in that configuration. So it's 4 minus 1 basically.
Yeah.
So there's one pin missing. That is to prevent you from plugging the wrong cables in.
Okay.
A non-addressable RGB has all 4 pins. Plug the non-addressable in, it's not going to work. I don't know if you're going to break something or not, but it's just not going to work. You somehow manage to plug this into a non-addressable header, you might break some stuff, so it's not a good idea. So I will have to run this to the controller if it will reach. All right, so that's in there.
Okay.
But you know what? That might be okay to run it this way because the graphics card is going to go here and cover most of it anyway. I think we're all right there. I'm going to take this cable, which is the pump lead, and you run it back through the top of the case. Cable management is always a pain in the butt when it comes to building. That's like the worst part about building computers is managing all the cables. And this is the only reason I haven't put this fan back in. Because I need to get to the pump header, which is way up here on the top edge of the motherboard. I have to run it from this opening here over, which, like I said, is all right because I'm going to have the fan here, which will cover that up. This cooler replacement's taking a while. Part of it is I'm just taking my time, kind of just chatting a little bit. Part of it is, figuring out, oh, this doesn't work that way, or how can I do this? But as frustrating as it seems like this kind of stuff can be, I actually enjoy it. I built this computer, I spec'd it out and everything myself. Same thing with my wife's computer, built her computer, spec'd it out, everything like that. Some of her computer came from parts out of this one, like the CPU. I think the CPU is basically it. I did use her graphics card for a couple of months in between the time that my old one started giving me problems and when I got this one. But other than that, it was brand new. I'll put these fan screws in. I think I had these in tight. That is, I think, scratched right there from the... I do want to eventually replace these fans and get some more Pure Wings fans, but that'll be a project down the road, I think. Just to have a matching set of fans in the whole case for a change, because I haven't had that before. So I think the other fans that I had on the fans that are in here are Thermaltake Ring Plus, so they are ARGB fans. The fans that I had on the front are non-ARGB. That came with the case. I don't even know what model number they are. The fans that I had on the other side of the old radiator are the ones that came with the other cooler. They're CoolerMaster fans. This set of cables is going to be for the ARGB. I think a PWM fan header and power. Power because these two headers on the motherboard are not going to support 6 devices like this controller is able to handle. So it's basically just going to use these two for it to receive information and in regards to the send information back to the motherboard so that the motherboard at least believes that things are working where they're supposed to. Look at the manual here. See if there's like a specific location. Okay, so there's one connector on the front of this controller marked RPM, and what manual says that one is that is the one that actually reads the RPM signal to send back to the motherboard. So I do have to connect one of my fans to that connector. Chance I need to disconnect. That one connector is this one here. So I need to unmount the controller. I dropped a screw, but where did it go? It didn't go all the way through. So what I'm trying to do now is connect the fan connectors to this side of the RGB controller. So I have the fans connected. Now I need to connect the RGB connectors to the hub or to the controller. So these are the two ARGB connectors that I need to connect to this controller. We're going to do that. They just push in. They're not difficult. And while I'm here, I've got the RGB connector for the CPU. This one, PWM in. I need to find where the CPU fan header is, which I think is up here in the top near the pump header. I'll have to make sure, but I don't think it's underneath the fan like the other one was. We'll take a look. We'll see. And this one is just SATA power. Let's plug it in here since I'm here. Figure out where this... And I basically got this all connected. I got the fans hooked up to the controller. I have power hooked up to the controller. The CPU pump is hooked up to the appropriate header on the motherboard. I just need to hook up the ARGB and the CPU fan. The CPU fan is also underneath the case fan that I held. But it's okay. I will make it work. ARGB. I'm going to run it underneath here, like so. And it just goes right here on this white header here. I told you that screw would show up. So we'll put this in. It doesn't make a difference if all 4 screws are in. I am just one who likes to have all the screws in. If it's meant to have 4 screws, it's getting 4 screws. We're basically done. I just need to kind of tidy up the cables in the back a little bit, kind of wrap them back how they were. So, oh, I forgot. I'm going to reconnect the reset switch back to where it's supposed to go, since I am not using the factory RGB controller anymore. And that goes in every computer builder's favorite spot. In the front connector pins. Every PC builder loves those things because they're so pain in the booty. It's like the one thing that after all these years, I still haven't figured out how to, just give a standardized connector. Even though every motherboard that I've ever had have had the pins in the same layout, the power reset switch is not one that's super important. But there have been a couple of times where I kind of wish I had it set up because things were just broken. Things were just freaking out all over the computer and just not working. Sucks when it happens in the middle of a stream. All right, so now I'm just going to tie all these cables back together. So all of this. I actually like having, instead of zip ties for cable management, especially on the back of the case, I like having these twist ties just because they're reusable. I think I messed up just a little bit because these cables here will fit better if they're underneath the 24 pin. I can squish this against the case and it will just push all this stuff down. But sorry, had a phone call. The vampire was worried about me. She's at work and I'm here working on this. But yeah, so before she called, I was saying, hello, love. I can't complain. It's good to have somebody that cares about you enough to call you and be like, are you okay? Doing all right? But yeah. So I've got everything wired up. I'm debating if I want to unplug the power cable and stuff so that I can route this underneath here, but I'm going to try to fit it on without doing that. Side panels on. We're going to put the little thumb screws back in the back. I'm going to put the graphics card back in. I mentioned earlier the CPU that's in here is a Ryzen 9 5950X, 32 gigabytes of RAM. The graphics card is a Zotac Gaming RTX 3080 Ti. Yeah, that's a heavy card. Mostly the cooler. It's where all the bulk and weight of your graphics card come in. Is actual card is only like this long, this bit between my fingers, and one but that's like the rest of it's the cooler. And modern CPU coolers or GPU coolers, sorry, are getting beefy. And that is it. This is all done, all hooked up. Hopefully it's going to work. Let's move this stuff all out of the way. There's a superstition in the PC building world that says, oh, I forgot to put the screws back in the graphics card. That might be a little bit important. It's like a little superstition in the PC building community that says that you don't put the side panel back on until you boot it up. Because if you do put the side panel back on without booting it up first, then you basically guarantee that it's not going to boot. Pretty much guaranteed yourself that you will have an issue. So we're going to hook everything up. Yeah, I'm going to do it off camera because I'm not moving the camera around right now. I have no RGB lights. So I have lights on motherboard, and I have lights on the graphics card, and I think I had lights on the RAM. I didn't look that hard. But I don't have lights on the fans. None of them. Okay, so we need to take this all apart again. Okay, so this is on there now. I couldn't get it on there right before, so that means the front connectors are working. Let me grab a power extension cable. Yes, I have an extension cable for the computer power. Then I can just plug this in and turn it on from a distance. We have established boot. We have not established lighting. So let's see. All right, so let's turn this on. I have lights here. I reconnected the RGB connector for the front fans. And I think the top fans may have just been disconnected. But that's all right. Let's see here. All right, there it goes. So I don't know if you can see, but I have a fault code there, the same VGA, which just means that I don't have the monitor connected, which I don't. So, but I have lighting here, I have lights up here. We're going to go in the back of this and figure out the lights on the top. I think something just came disconnected. Is it actually trying to finish booting? I think it's trying to finish booting. Yeah. I think it did try to finish booting. So turn that off. I told you. You never put the side panel on. I didn't put the side panel on, and this is exactly the reason why. Because there's always going to be something not hooked up right. There's the cable. There you are, you bunhole. Yes, I just called the power connector or the cable the bumhole because it is. Is it working now? There we go. All the fans light up. Everything is lighting up. Now I can put the side panel back on. The temperature on this thing. You guys can see it down here in the red numbers down here. Just dropped to like 27 degrees, 27 Celsius. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna shut it down again. Now that I fixed the problem, we can put the side panel back on. That's why you never put the side panels back on until you test boot it. Now we get to show all this back down inside here. Put this back panel back on again. All right. Put my desk back together again. Yeah, I think we are done with this computer. So I'm going to hook everything up. I know I'm doing some of this off camera. I'll be right back. I'm going to take the camera down. We're going to show you the computer build and stuff. So I will be back in just a second. We have, here's the computer. We're going to turn it on here. Really, I have power because that's on. Well, that was weird. No, I put a new cooler in it. Yeah. There it is. New BeQuiet cooler. That was weird. So the motherboard lights were on, but the power supply was off. And now we're, just waiting for it to boot. So we have a successful boot and everything is working. Pretty light. I know I have to, I think I'm going to have to configure my RGB program because of, the new fans. But yeah, I had to replace the cooler. Bought a new cooler while I was in the US and decided to go ahead and change it while I'm on stream. Yeah. I'm not using my typical setup for obvious reasons. I'm working off my laptop and my gimbal battery died during the stream, so I'm just handheld, handycam. So. But I think that's going to be it.
Now look, Buster, let's have an understanding. Now what? Brother, what a way to run a railroad. Now, as I was saying... All right. Let's get this picture started.